Well, it's New Year's Eve, and yeah, I just wanted to come on here and talk about um, what I would consider probably the biggest, and I mean biggest, um, I guess you could say obstacle, biggest, I guess you could say issue that I faced this year in 2022. Now, as you all know, back in January 19th of this year, I started working for, well, Target, basically the competition of my former job. And to say that I've bumped into a lot of former and current and still current co-workers from that job would be an understatement. I mean, I have seen just about everybody I've worked with in some capacity from Walmart shopping at Target. And whether or not they're still with Walmart or not, is another story. In fact, recently I bumped into somebody that I haven't seen in like a couple of years because she decided to leave Walmart and start pursuing more of a better career choice for her by going back to school. And then after that, I bumped into other people, recently as well as, throughout the year. In fact, one person recently that I also bumped into was checking out behind me, because I was on register 10, she was checking out a register 8, and I heard her voice, and I just turned around, and I was like, I mentioned her name, she saw me, she's like, oh hey, how you doing? And even she said being at Target was a better choice. So it seems that the upgrade is potentially, if not obviously, looked at even by my former co-workers who were or are still currently at Walmart in Patterson as a positive move. But to say the journey here at Target has been easy would be an understatement, because it's not been easy. I've had issues just like anybody else, to where I've had safety issues, and I've been talked to about that. I've had violations because of not going to lunch or clocking out when I'm supposed to. And yeah, it's been a very interesting, tumultuous first year for me at any job, as far as I know, because when I was at Food for Less in Lawrence, Kansas, this never happened. When I was at the Walmart for over a year in Lawrence, Kansas, never really happened that much. When even for the brief periods I was at Home Depot and Hastings, never happened. Burger King, same thing. Burger King, that's fast food, but I never really had an issue there that much. But yeah, as far as I know, I think obviously for the first time, in a long time, out of any job I've had, this is basically the first very obstacly, I don't know if that's the word, but obstacly tumultuous year when it comes to working, because I try to get there all the time. I try to get there on time. I try to show up, maybe if they call me early in the day and say, hey, can you be here within a few hours, and it works out somehow. Basically, if it works out, what I'm trying to say is, if it works out somehow to where I can catch the bus and be there, that's cool. That's cool. It's cool for me and them, because I'll be able to get some work in and stuff. But yeah, what a year it's been. And the tumultuous part, like I said, isn't just because of my violations, safety, my safety issues and all that. But the tumultuous year has to deal with the bus. That's right. Because ever since, me and my mom moved here to Newman in 2016, I've always taken the bus to work. That's been my main solution, take the bus to work, because how else am I going to be able to, make a living? And that's what I started doing when I got used to the routes and everything for for Walmart, you know, because the bus stop was right there. And as soon as I got hired at Target, I figured out basically, okay, you know, this is where the bus stop's going to be. Well, actually, what I did is, I mean, before I figured it out, I looked online to see if the, you know, what bus stop was close by, and I saw that, you know, the bus stop was right in front of the El Polo Loco, which is right across, you know, in the same parking lot area, you know, or kind of a junction in the same parking lot area as my job. So, you know, that worked out as well. But when it came to the bus, though, this is what really gets me. Because when I used to take the bus to Walmart, it wasn't that big of a deal. I would just stay on the same bus. That's it. That's before they changed things, of course. But anyway, you know, I would stay on the same bus, but nowadays you have to switch off onto another bus because the routes change. You know, but the thing is, I never really had much of an issue getting to work. Never. I never had a real issue, you know, when it came to the bus. But for some odd reason, this year ended up being the exception. Because even though it started out good, it started out fine, you know, and I was, you know, taking the bus going here and, you know, going here to Patterson, then transferring over to the bus to go to Turlock and everything. Everything was good. Everything was fine. All of a sudden, when I started getting into my groove at work, into my routine, that's when the bus, from what I can tell, starts kind of messing up a little bit. And it starts mainly around, from what I can recall, about spring of this year. Mid-spring of this year. And it would be like when I would be scheduled to work till about maybe 6:30 or something like that, and I would take the, you know, the 7-Eleven bus, which is the last bus on the weekdays, you know, at night, to get me home to my destination. Mainly, you know, what would happen at times is they would have a new driver take the reins. They would have a new driver take the reins, and sometimes the new driver would, you know, would know basically where they're going. They would know where they're going, which is all right, which is cool. You know, as long as you get home safe and everything, or get to your destination safe, that's fine. So there are times they would have new drivers that would know the route, no problem. But then there are times they would have drivers that didn't know the route and would call upon us, the passengers, to help them out. You know, as I've mentioned, I don't know if I've mentioned this before here on my channel, but there was one time back in the spring, going into the summer, around that time frame, where we had a new driver. She didn't know the path. It was like okay, let me rephrase that. Okay, let me rephrase that. She knew the path for Turlock, but when it came to doing the Patterson-Newman one, she didn't know. She didn't really know. And there were a couple of times where we nearly got lost. Almost got lost. But, you know, a lot of us had to help her out. We would tell her, okay, this way, that way, turn here, turn there, because we know the routes. We've been on this bus many times. And I can recall when we got to Newman, now normally I wait till they get to the Merced and Eucalyptus stop, which is near the Golden Valley Medical Center here in town, and I would get dropped off there unless the bus driver decides, hey, I'll take you to the Burger King place if you ask. Like if the bus driver, like one of the ones I used to drive with, would be cool with, you know, doing something like that. If you asked them, you know, they would do it. But normally I've noticed that these newer drivers are more like, no, we can't do that, we'll just do this. So anyway, to get back on topic, you know, normally I would get dropped off at the Merced Eucalyptus and then walk home from there, whether it's at night or during the day. Well, this one time with this lady, like I said, in the spring into summer portion of the year, she, like I said, she knew she knew the Turlock direction and everything, the Turlock route. But when it came to Patterson and Newman, that was a completely different animal for her, especially at night, and she wasn't too sure about it. So she asked us to help her out. And once we got to Amy and Driscoll, which was the stop before the one I would get off of, I can recall honestly that myself and almost everybody else on that bus that was gonna get dropped off either, on Amy and Driscoll, or get dropped off at Merced and Eucalyptus. I just recall a lot of us, including myself, said, "Yeah, good night, lady. We'll just get off here," because to us we're like, look, if you don't know your way around, then maybe you shouldn't be driving the bus, especially at night. Or if you do want to drive the bus, let them know you're a day person, or get more training, things like that. And, hopefully that's what she did. Or maybe she realized it's not meant for her. Maybe she just realized bus driving's not meant for her. I don't know. There's a couple of other times too I can recall. Like there was one time we had another young lady. I don't know if she. I think she's still driving. I think I've rode with her recently a couple of times, but I think one of the first times she started doing the route at night, she, again, like the other lady I mentioned, knew the route, knew what to do, but she seemed to be on the phone with somebody. Yeah. She seemed to be on the phone with somebody while she was driving, and I guess she had on speaker or something. And what happened is she got so distracted by being on the phone with this person that she didn't realize that she was supposed to turn, because one of the routes we take is the Keystone and Rogers turn, which is right across from Restoration. I can't think, the RH building, the RH warehouse, Restoration Hardware, I think. We basically was supposed to take the turn right on the corner of where Granger is. And what happened is she didn't do that because she got distracted. She got distracted by the fact that she was on the phone. And only did she realize, oops, I'm in the wrong area, that she has to recourse herself and basically take, I guess you could say, an unnecessary detour to get back on track. And then if that's not enough, we had another person drive, and she had, I don't know, and what happened, well not she, but he, I should say, had to detour. It's like he knew the route, kind of, but then what happened was there was this big accident, major accident, where we're supposed to turn onto Las Palmas and everything, right? So what happens is we can't turn on Las Palmas, or onto Las Palmas, because it's all, well, not Las Palmas, but there's a, no, it's Sperry Road. Sperry Road is what it is. But there's this big accident on Sperry Road, and we can't turn down Sperry Road because it's blocked off. So we have to figure something else out, right? We have to figure something else out. And what happens is we are, okay, let me correct myself here. It's early, I do apologize. It's about 7:30, I do apologize. Let me get something to drink here. But like I was saying, there was this one time we're getting ready to turn on the Sperry, and there's this big accident, and it looks like it's blocking off most of Sperry, right? So I believe we're able, from what I can recall, we were able to go down Sperry, but we couldn't go back because it was all blocked off. So we needed a detour, and what happened is they gave us a detour going down the road when you're heading to Walmart, or to the Walmart bus stop. So we have to get back onto that, or at least go onto the back road, a junction from the main turn near the Chevrolet in Patterson to get on Highway 33. And so we have to go down another path to get onto a dirt road to get behind the whole situation. It was blocked off about a block or two, and finally get back on the road. Yeah, excuse me. It's been one of those years. It's been one of those years where we have to be, well, our driver basically is like, hey, I don't know what to do here. I need to get redirected. What do you suggest? And then be told, hey, go down this way and then turn. It's been one of those years. But honestly, despite all that, including a driver who I think has improved since he started. He still kind of does the same thing like he did last night, but not as bad. It's like he'll make it basically back a few minutes after the little beep goes off to alert them, hey, you got to get going, you got to get on the road. So, this guy, if it's the same guy, used to have two people with him all the time. I don't know if it was his kids or his siblings, I don't know. But what they would do is they would go walk to the store, a convenience store, when they would be at the Patterson Park. And they would do this for an average of 15 to 20 minutes. And normally you're supposed to have about 10 minutes if you get there on time to break and everything, to kind of do your own thing, use the bathroom, whatever. This guy, along with his two friends, would take longer than that. Take an average of +5, +10, if you know what I mean. So hopefully, the Stan RTA, was able to talk to him and say, hey, you can't do that. It's like, we understand, you want to go and get something to eat, and that's fine, but do it within the time frame. And maybe they said, hey, we'll give you a 5-minute window to get back, but that's it. But despite all that, nothing, my friends, could honestly compare to what happened over the past week or so. Nothing. I mean, even 2 nights ago, when it was raining hard, well, not raining hard, but raining lightly, and I had a lady that kind of made a little bit of a mistake as the rain threw her off, because she's supposed to turn, to the left on Sperry to go down to the Keystone and Rogers direction to go to that stop, and she ends up turning to the right towards Taco Bell. And obviously you could tell she wasn't too fond of driving at night, especially with it raining. So hopefully maybe she said something to the headquarters and said, hey, don't ever put me out there again in this kind of weather. But despite that, along with everything else I've mentioned, nothing could ever compare to what happened several weeks ago. And look, I have filed numerous complaints and been in contact with the people in charge over at Stan RTA at the S, over these complaints. And thank God that they do understand and appreciate, my concerns, because it's their concerns, because what these drivers do sometimes, comes back on them. It's a reflection on them. I mean, it's like my TL told me, my team leader told me a couple of days ago when they were doing this, yearly evaluation, just like, talk about improving on things and all that. She basically said, look, I'm not about to, I'm not about to lose my job over something that you did and everything, because, you weren't safe, in doing what you do and all that. And that's basically what these people over at the Stan RTA headquarters appreciated about with people like me and anybody else that have been, pretty much filing complaints and everything to them, because of the fact that what these drivers do reflects on them, and they, being in charge, are not about to lose their jobs because these drivers don't want to take anything seriously. If you know what I mean. But like I said, nothing could compare to what happened several weeks ago, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. And I think I even I don't know if I did a rant video on it or what here, but I'll never forget it, because, like I said, I've dealt with all these situations that I've mentioned. Heck, I've dealt with the bus. Literally, when I'm waiting for it over on this area, when I'm waiting for it, to come down to Inyo, I've dealt with the bus just driving by and not stopping. And I'm not the only one that's dealt with that. There have been others that have waited over at S Street and Merced Street, on this side of Merced, I should say, this side of Merced Street, that have seen the bus do that, because the bus driver doesn't know the route. Heck, I even heard over the walkie, and this is around 5:30, around the 5:26 time frame of when I'm picked up from my job to come home. If I'm off at that time, I've heard through the walkie on that somebody got lost because they didn't know the route. Now, thankfully, I know a church friend who does buses, I think has worked with Stan DS or Stan RTA at times, who understands the situation and basically says, look, what these people are probably doing is writing down the directions so they know where they're going, or they're still green and they got some training to do. But like I said, nothing of what I've mentioned before and what I just mentioned pales. Basically, what I'm trying to say is none of that I just mentioned, including, like I said, the bus just going by and not stopping at the stops it's supposed to here in Newman on numerous occasions. None of that, compares to what happened several weeks ago. Because several weeks ago, basically 25 days ago, I should say, on the evening of this month, this is what happened. This is what I said in a report, a concern I gave to the S that I submitted at 1:50 in the morning on the 7th of this month. And that was, if I can look here, a Wednesday. So I think I was off on that day. Yeah, I was off on that day. But this was my concern, because this was because I got off around 6:45 or 6 o'clock that evening, around the 6 o'clock hour, and I had to wait for the bus. So when the bus finally arrived, there was something odd about it, because there was a guy that was holding on to the bus railing next to the driver, and obviously the guy was out of it, totally out of it. And there was another guy sitting in a chair that seemed a little bit okay, but still kind of out of it too, not all there. And then the bus driver was like, something else as well. Like, they were totally out of it. And look, I've dealt with situations to where the bus driver will stop at a Chevron to go use the restroom. They'll stop and then get back on track. That's fine. Or they'll go into Taco Bell, which is right in front of the bus stop, to use the restroom or get something to eat. That's fine. And everything, as long as, they get back on track, get back, to doing their job. Make up for any lost time they have. But nothing, like I said, compares to what happened, basically at the beginning of this month, 25 days ago. Because this is what I told, the S. This is the report of concern I submitted to them on my day off. This is what I told them, and I quote, description: concerns of the 45E/45W, which is 45 East turns into 45W route, last one of the evening on December 6, 2022, or 12-6-2022. This is what I told him, and I quote, because I was basically the only one on the bus outside of outside a few other people that came on board later, but I was the only one for quite some time. All right. So, and there was another girl that basically also was on the bus, and I think she even probably filed a complaint because the moment I mentioned this on the Facebook group pages of Patterson and Newman, I think she was one of them that even agreed with what I said, and in the about when I posted about my experience. Even she complimented, or not complimented, but she added a comment as well. So I'm not the only one, and I'm sure she also complained. But this is what I told them. Again, the description, the title of it was Concerns of the 45E/45W route, last one of the evening on 12-6-2022, December 6th. This is what I submitted to them at 1:50 in the morning on December 7th. This is what I told them, and I quote, "This was the worst experience I've ever had. The driver was new, had some folks not right mentally as passengers, including one that was trying to direct the driver, and said passenger had the new driver stop at the Sonics near the Regal Theater in Turlock for food in the middle of a shift? What the hell? Oh, and said passenger gave me a $5 bill not to say anything. Boy, was he wrong about that." Let me reread that, and I quote. This is what I told them at the beginning. "This was the worst experience I've ever had. The driver was new, had some folks not right mentally as passengers, including one that was trying to direct the driver, and said passenger had the new driver stop at the Sonics near the Regal Theaters in Turlock for food in the middle of a shift? What the hell? Oh, said passenger gave me a $5 bill not to say anything. Boy, was he wrong about that." And what I meant, and what I was saying by that, when I said the passenger gave me a $5 bill not to say anything, he was trying to bribe me. And I basically was one of those people that said, okay, I'll take the 5, but I'm still saying something. Now, I didn't say that directly to them, but I just said, okay, you think you're going to shut me up with just a $5 bill? Boy, are you wrong. And, what happened when I got home? I got on the line and complained. That's what I did. Guy obviously wasn't all there. And heck, even like I said, the guy that was sitting down, that was kind of not all there himself too, had more, I guess you could say, control of his facilities mentally, just semi-mentally, than the guy that was trying to direct. Because, what they do is they go over to the Sonics, the guy orders the food, and the guy's doing this while he's waiting. And it's like, and the guy sitting down in the bus, after they come back, and they leave that guy there, the guy sits down back in the bus, the one that's kind of semi more, in line with what's going on, but not totally. He's looking out there and saying, there's something not right with that guy. He's cuckoo, Anyway, yeah, he tried to bribe me with that, and I just took the 5 and I said, okay, fine. And you know what I did with the 5? Along with some other money, I deposited it in my bank. I don't know what these people are thinking sometimes, But here's what's crazy. There's a bus stop in front of the Regal Theaters for people that take the bus, get dropped off at the bus stop at the Taco Bell, go across the street, go to the Regal Theater, go to see a movie, and then probably get something to eat, and then get on the bus back home. They couldn't. It's like, look, you want to do something like that, then why don't you just stop at the bus stop and maybe, I don't know, say, hey, I got a few minutes ahead of myself, I'm gonna go to the subway and get something. But even still, that'd be wasting time. The point is, The point is, this was not supposed to happen, and it delayed us in a big way. Delayed us in a big way. But continuing on, this is what I also told them. Again, let me reread this. So let me read the whole thing in full now before I get more into this. Let me reread the top. This is what I told him, and I quote, "This was the worst experience I've ever had. The driver was new, had some folks not right mentally as passengers, including one that was trying to direct the driver, and said passenger had the new driver stop at the Sonics near the Regal Theaters in Turlock for food in the middle of a shift? What the hell? Oh, and said passenger gave me a $5 bill not to say anything. Boy, was he wrong about that." Now continuing on, and I quote, this is what I also said. "To top it all off, the passenger that was directing the driver had him miss the Hartley Street in Patterson and drive all the way down to the Valero gas station, pull to the side for whatever unknown reason. Then the driver made a U-turn in the middle of Las Palmas to get back on track. He could have caused an accident." So in other words, what he did is he pulls to the side, right? He pulls to the side. Let me see. Do I got a demonstration here? Let me see. Do I have something here to demonstrate with? Do I have something? I had something. I guess I don't. I think I do. That's somewhere. Here, I'll use my Knuckles figure I found at my job. It's from McDonald's. But anyway, this is what he does. So he parks at the side. Like here's me. Here's my hands the sidewalk, right? So he parks near the sidewalk. Then what does he do? He starts to drive up. He starts to move again, but then he starts to turn. And he's turning. And he's turning, right? And you know how big buses are, right? Basically, the entire bus, from when he's turned, took up the entire street. Yeah, it took up the entire street of Las Palmas. It did. It took up the entire street. It could have caused an accident. Can you imagine a car coming at that moment? They could have ran right into that bus, plowed right through into it, and probably got to me. And the guys were just laughing about it. All because he missed Hartley. And the guy, the way he was laughing, the driver was like this. Ha, 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 ha. And it's like, okay, you know, this, obviously something's not right about this guy. You know, something's not right about this guy. Now, continuing on, this is what I also told them, and I quote, "If you want more proof, check the cameras on the bus, and you will see what I'm talking about. Thank you for your understanding, and I hope and pray this doesn't happen again." So, in conclusion, I told him, hey, you want more proof, check the cameras, because I do have cameras in and inside and outside of that bus. I said, check the cameras on the bus, and you will see what I'm talking about. And I also sent them photos and video footage that I recorded and took to prove my case. So here's what they said in exchange. Here's what they said in response, because it takes about 7 to 10 days. Here's what they said in response, and I quote. This is what they said, because they number the request. They say, "Dear Brian," and they sent me this literally on Christmas Day. What a Christmas present, right? So this is what they said, and I quote. "Dear Brian, your request hashtag, or your request number 22-0815 has been resolved with the resolution." Okay, let me read that. This is what they replied to me on Christmas. What a Christmas gift, right? They say, "Dear Brian, your request number 22-0815 has been resolved with the resolution. The comment is valid as the footage." Okay, let me reread that. This comment. Okay, let me read. This is what they told me, and I quote. "Dear Brian, your request number 22-0815 has been resolved with the resolution. This comment is valid as the footage. An eval, which is maintenance and stuff for buses, verifies the client's statement. The ops manager has met with the operator to discuss this trip and the proper way to handle if he is unsure of his route and other ways to handle the entire situation. Safety manager is also meeting with this operator regarding additional training. Attempts were made to call the client but got no answer, so voicemail was made to apologize to him. Email was also sent to the customer letting him know how the investigation went. So, praise be to God. Basically, they saw the footage from the cameras, they saw what I sent them, and they basically said, yeah, this should not happen. Because this guy should have not been behind the wheel. And again, this is what they said, and I quote, this is what they told me in response. They said, this comment is valid as the footage, and eval verifies the client's statement. The ops manager has met with the operator to discuss this trip and the proper way to handle if he is unsure of his route and other ways to handle the entire situation. Safety manager is also meeting with this operator regarding additional training. Attempts were made to call the client but got no answer, so voicemail was made to apologize to him. Email was also sent to the customer letting him know how the investigation went. So what I did in response is I responded to them by email saying, thank you for your response and taking care of this issue. Have a Merry Christmas. So yeah, basically that right there, that situation, out of all the times I've taken the bus, since I've lived here in Newman, taking the bus to work at Walmart, taking the bus now to work at Target, and for a brief period in between to Dollar Tree, in between all those times, I've never had an issue like this. Like I said, I've had issues where the bus might be delayed because it breaks down or traffic or whatever. That's fine. Or the driver might be a little new to the route, but once they get to where they're going, they're okay. That's all fine. Heck, I'm even accepting of the fact that sometimes, the bus, ends up missing its route, coming down Inyo and Main and all that here in Newman because it doesn't know the route that well, just yet. I get that. I can accept that. But this moment here was unacceptable. It was unacceptable, period. And it's something that hopefully never happens again. Hopefully. I mean, has some of the bus rides after that been perfect? No. Back and forth? No, they've not been. They've not been perfect. But I will take those, including the one that made me late yesterday. Yeah, that made me late yesterday. I will take those over what happened on December 6th anytime. Anytime. I would rather be 10 minutes late before, 10 minutes down, on a bus to get to my destination than deal with what I dealt with on the 6th. That's a fact. Excuse me. That's a fact. I'd rather deal with that. I'd rather deal with that. I mean, look, yesterday, was I happy the fact that I missed my first 45 East bus to get to work because I was supposed to be at work at 12:30? No, I wasn't happy. Thankfully, my job understood, hey, he's going to be late, but he'll be here, and what I do is I basically make up the hours. In other words, I work the hours I'm supposed to, but I work it differently. Instead of 12:30 to 5:15, it's 2 to 6:45. And that's about it. But be that as it may, though, I'd rather take all that, again, and I say this truthfully, as I check the time and my battery life there on my camera, I'd rather take all of that over what happened to me on the 6th. That's a fact. That is a fact. I'd rather take all of that over what happened to me on the 6th. Period. And if there's one other thing I do want to talk about when it comes to the bus, since I've taken it, going to Target and even before then, but more so, I guess, since I've been working at Target, if there's one thing I would like to address, it's the free rides deal. Now, once in a while throughout this year, I think a couple of times, 3 or 4 times, they've done free rides for about a week, if not a month. In this case, it's a month. So basically, you don't have to pay anything. It's a free ride. And if there's one negative I will say about these free rides, is you got to be careful about who you let on board. Yeah. You got to be careful about that. Because there have been several times this year that I have rode with people not in the right mind. I rode with a lady not once but twice that was not in her right mind. And everything, she would speak to herself, she'd be like, bye bye, you know, that I'd be okay, whatever. You know, so I've dealt with that. I've dealt with the aforementioned ones that basically gave me the worst experience I've ever had on a bus back on December 6th. And I've dealt with people that are not right in the head because of drugs. Or I've seen, you know, those kind of people come off the bus, you know, while I'm waiting for another bus to show up, because rides are free, and they're not right in the head. I mean, yesterday, one guy got off the 40 bus, which became the 45 East bus that I took to work, you know, to try to basically get there at 2 o'clock, and this guy's just started to go off. He just started to say, "Oh, fuck, beep, 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 beep," and he was hitting stuff, hitting, things at the park, like the little plastic things in the bench area, the bus stop bench area. He was just cussing up a storm. And then, alongside that, there was another person, not from the bus, but obviously he was drugged out of his mind, yelling and screaming at a lot of people, saying, "Oh, F you, I'm beating you out on the blah, blah, blah." I was thinking, good Lord, what the heck's going on here? And then on top of that, I had to deal with one of them trying to get in my face last night, trying to, I guess, bully me or intimidate me. I just ignored them until they got onto the Turlock Transit bus, which was the number 1 Countryside, and left. And I'm like, this is what happens. This is what happens when bus services offer free rides for a week or a month or even the season. This is what happens. You end up allowing those that are mentally not right in the head, whether it's because of a true mental breakdown or whatever, or mainly drugs, whatever the case may be. This is what happens. You basically endanger your passengers, if not yourself as the driver. You're endangering all of yourselves when you allow this to happen. So if I'm any bus services, whether it's the Stan RTA, Turlock Transit, Merced bus, whatever, BART, whatever, or any buses across the country, period, any transportation services across the country, period, if I'm you, I do not, and I repeat, I do not allow these kind of people on the buses. Now, I know that may seem and sound unfair, right? But what's more important? Your safety and your passenger's safety, or allowing someone that mentally is not right in the head because of drugs or whatever other reasons, disability, on the bus to possibly endanger your folks? What's a better choice? Yeah, exactly. Keeping you and your passengers safe. So, my advice to any bus drivers out there, of any kind, any transportation drivers out there of any kind, you're going to do these free rides and all that in the future. Maybe what you need to do is make the exceptions of saying, we are offering free rides, but we're not allowing those that are not mentally, all there because of reasons the board because we don't want to endanger ourselves or our passengers. And that's it. That is it. So, yeah, 2022 has been a very tumultuous year when it comes to taking the bus to work, no matter how you view it. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Let me know how you feel about what I just said. Let me know if you've experienced anything like this throughout this year, taking the bus, the train, the planes, whatever. Let me know what your thoughts are. Comment below, live chat during the premiere, like the video. Check me out at Venmo. Support me at Venmo at Brian-Homer-2, Cash App at BWRoses98. My Teespring store at, it's also open for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. Also check out my Patreon at BW Roses with a $1, $3 tier. Also support and check out my DeviantArt page at BVW1979. Also check out BW Roses Discussions, all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Also check out my VENMO page for content you can't get anywhere else. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are, and I will talk to you all later.